The thing I get asked the most about is setting up your electronics. And I think because people see screenshots that look different than what their screens look like, they think there's some magic setting to getting your graph set up perfectly. And there are things you need to adjust, but if there was one setting to make your graph look the best it could be, they would make it that way out of the box. And so what it really depends on is the kind of lake that you fish on, the bottom hardness, how deep a water you fish in. So you're constantly having to adjust things like sensitivity, color line, contrast, especially with side and down scan. Now we have new technologies like FishReveal that you'll see are starting to show you these groups of fish. You know, you see some off here to the side, but you can adjust these different settings, especially with the new FishReveal. It's important to do that. When Lowrance introduced the 3D structure scan, they had to do more with target separation so that you wouldn't get a lot of clutter when you were looking three-dimensionally at the bottom. You would start to pick up sediment in the water, and you're trying to separate fish from structure and things like that. That's why you use these different views. So when they introduced FishReveal, they actually introduced some of its own sensitivity and color line adjustments. Generally, it starts pretty high. I think the default's up around like 85, 86. See how I'm picking up these steady lines? That's just echo returns. So it's probably, there's too much sensitivity there. So I'll back it off a little bit. You know, I've cleared up this clutter was what I call it up here, because really most of the time when I'm fishing, I will look for some suspended fish, but most of the time I'm just looking at the bottom. You know, I'm looking for pieces of structure, maybe, you know, rocks or something, or a hard spot, or a big laydown, or, you know, something on the bottom. With side scan, even schools of fish off to the side. And then I use down scan more for actually looking for the fish. You know, if I see something off to the side, I'll throw a waypoint on it, flip around, go back over it. But as you see, I get out into deeper water, the bottom is pretty light. It's because it's soft. It's not a hard bottom. When it's a real hard bottom, you get a brighter return. When it's not as hard, it's a darker return. But you can still adjust things as you go and get out into deeper water. Most of the time, I'm gonna bump my contrast way up because I really want to be able to see what's out there. And then as I get back into shallow water, especially if I get into shallow water with a hard spot, as you've got this contrast bumped up, it's going to get real whited out. You lose a lot of your return. So I'll end up backing it back off when I get into shallow water, and I'll show you some of that in a minute. And then I usually keep my ranges, you know, whatever the depth is, I want to be just below that. So if I'm, you know, say right now I'm close to 12 foot, I'll put it on the 15-foot scale. Side scan, I'm usually only gonna look out 50 feet unless I'm looking for brush piles, pieces of cover. I might look out 100 or 150 feet and try to scan as big an area as I can, looking for individual pieces of cover, and then I'll just mark them with waypoints. And then I will go back over them with down scan because I wanna see if there's fish in them. So sometimes you can see the fish with side scan, but I usually think, you know, especially with like FishReveal, you can go back over a brush pile and see the fish hiding in the branches. I use side scan a lot to look for areas I want to fish, and I use down scan to look and see if those areas are holding fish.